Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings for Wednesday, November the 1st. We do have a big Wednesday slate tonight, 13 games. Nearly every team is in action tonight, so it's going to be a ton to talk about. I'm going to try and go as quick as I can, guys, give you a quick breakdown of this 13-game slate. What I do like, we're going to go game by game and just give a quick breakdown of each team. Before we do get started though, as always, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos, if they do help you out, make sure you hit that like button down below, guys. I do always appreciate the likes. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel and if you have never heard of PrizePicks, we are partnered up with PrizePicks. You guys can check out PrizePicks linked down below in the description, or just when you sign up, make sure to use promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code. And for those of you that don't know what PrizePicks is, they are a player prop site. Very simple and easy to use. You're just picking more or less on player projections. It's that simple. You have to make at least 2 picks on PrizePicks, but you can make up to a 6-pick entry. You can win up to 25x your money over there. PrizePicks offers a lot of sports, a lot of different markets. You can make multi-sport entries on PrizePicks. It's a lot of fun. You guys definitely need to be playing over there. And if you're not signed up for PrizePicks yet, again, use that promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's talk about this Wednesday slate, guys. 13 games. Going to be a lot to go over. We're going to try and go as quick as I can. Hopefully try and keep this video within 20 to 25 minutes. Let's start off with the first game of the night, though, Milwaukee and Toronto. We'll start off on the Milwaukee side. So looking at the Bucks here, there's not a ton I really like on the Bucks today. There's not a ton I like in this game in general. If I was going to play anyone on Milwaukee, it would either be Giannis or Dame. But at their price tags, neither one of Giannis or Dame look great to me. Dame's actually been pretty bad so far with the Bucks. He did have a good season opener, but the last 2 games have not been great for Dame. I think he's a little bit overpriced right now. Giannis, we obviously know, has a massive ceiling and can put up a huge game any night. But this is kind of a tougher spot against Toronto. Toronto's a good defensive team. I want to say Toronto's actually done a good job in the past of stopping Giannis as well, kind of limiting him. So, yeah, I just don't see much on Milwaukee that's even worth going to on this slate. And on the other side with Toronto, I mean, when it comes to these Toronto guys, we kind of know where the usage and the offense is going to go through. It's pretty much going to go through the 5 starters. If I had to play anyone on the Raptors here, I think Scottie Barnes is probably my favorite play on Toronto. Scottie Barnes has just been really good this season, been super consistent. He's been playing a ton of minutes as well. It seems like without Fred VanVleet, he is really taking a big step up this season. Barnes is, rebounding the ball, getting assists. He's just doing everything when he's on the floor. The scoring has been up for him as well. He's just been more aggressive offensively. It's 7,800. I think in GBP, Scottie Barnes is definitely someone I would have in my player pool, especially if I was playing a lot of lineups. Dennis Schroeder's been really good for the Raptors this season. Minutes have been pretty consistent for him. I think he's priced correctly now at 6K. I think 6K is where Schroeder should be priced. On a 13-game slate, he's not a standout option, but he's playable. But like Jakob Poeltl, OG Anunoby, at their price tags, I don't really have any interest in them. And the rest of the Raptors, I don't really like on this slate. So we can go ahead and move on to the next game, Portland and Detroit. Start off on the Portland side here. So looking at the Blazers, the Blazers I think are kind of interesting on this slate. For one, this should be a pretty good matchup against Detroit. Detroit last season was a pretty bad defensive team. I think it's probably going to be the case again this season. If we're going to be looking to anyone on Portland today, I think my favorite play is probably Shaedon Sharpe. He's just had a bigger role lately without Anthony Simons. He's been playing a ton of minutes. The price tag at 6K does feel correct on Shaedon Sharpe. He's not a standout play at this price tag, but when you're getting 36, 37, 38 minutes with the usage he should have, I think he can definitely outperform this 6K salary. Scoot's been really bad to start the season. I feel like without Anthony Simons, he should have a bigger role moving forward. He's been in foul trouble a lot as well. I feel like Scoot's going to have a good game at some point, and maybe it comes against this Pistons team. I feel like if there was ever a spot for Scoot to finally pop off, like this would be the spot for him to do it. So he's worth a sprinkle in GBPs, I think. And then Malcolm Brogdon, do want to mention, just because he's had a really good role off the bench, minutes have been very secure for him. He feels priced correctly at 5,700, but again, without Anthony Simons, you should continue to see Brogdon play close to 30 minutes off the bench, and Brogdon should be productive when he's out there. So he's playable as well. But that's it for Portland. On the Detroit side, we do need to monitor the status of Jalen Duren. This is a pretty important injury we're going to have to monitor. If Jalen Duren does get ruled out, we'll have to see what Detroit does with the starting lineup. They'll probably move Isaiah Stewart to center, and then just maybe like Jaden Ivey starts, maybe Alec Burks starts. They also could start Marvin Bagley. So there's a couple guys, maybe even like James Wiseman, but I don't think he's played in a game yet this season. So I'm guessing if there's no Duren, you'll probably see maybe Stewart. Maybe they'll slide Stewart to center or they'll start Bagley at center. Either way, though, there's definitely going to be some value to go to from Detroit if Duren's out. Stewart and I think Bagley would be the biggest beneficiaries. The rest of Detroit, though, like Cade Cunningham, Azura Thompson, I don't know if I have a ton of interest in these guys on a 13-game slate. If Azura Thompson was a little bit cheaper, I think I'd like him. But at 5,800, I think his price tag's gotten to a point where he's definitely not a standout play on this slate. But this is a really good matchup against Portland. I think Portland's probably going to be one of the worst defensive teams in the league this season. Teams are going to be able to put up a lot of points on this Portland team. So I feel like somebody on Detroit's going to do well here. If I had to go to anyone on Detroit, I would look to the bigs, especially if Duren's out. But I don't mind Azura Thompson. Cade Cunningham's always playable in GBPs. And then if Duren does get ruled out, and if they do go like small and start Ivy or Burks, you could definitely consider one of them if they wind up starting. But I think that's it for Detroit here. Let's move on to the next game, Indiana and Boston. So we got some injuries to monitor on the Indiana side. Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, and Jalen Smith, I believe, are all questionable. Halliburton is obviously the big one to watch here. If Tyrese Halliburton does get ruled out, I'm assuming that either Andrew Nembhard or TJ McConnell would start at point guard. Whoever starts at point guard is going to be a pretty good value play. Nembhard's 5,100, McConnell is 4K. We've seen Nembhard be really productive in the games he's played in the past without Tyrese Halliburton. So Nembhard I would definitely like if he starts at point guard, especially obviously if there's no Halliburton. Matchup here against Boston is not great, but there's definitely going to be some value to target if Halliburton is out. But if Halliburton plays, I really don't like anything on Indiana here. Tough matchup, not a team I want to get a ton of exposure to, but there will be some value to go to if Halliburton sits. If Mathurin sits, I don't think that's like a crazy boost for anyone. Maybe you see more minutes for Buddy Hield, maybe a few more minutes for Aaron Naismith. On this slate, though, I really don't have a ton of interest in either one of those guys. So this is kind of just a wait and see with the Halliburton news. I think that's where most of my interest is going to come from on this Indiana team. And then on the Boston side, Boston has been a team this season where it's been pretty clear-cut, like where the usage is going, where the offensive production is going. It's going through Tatum, Porzingis, and Jaylen Brown for the most part. Drew Holiday, we've yet to really see him have a big offensive role. He's kind of been getting there on defensive stats and like peripherals. He's not really been scoring a ton on this Boston team. At 6,800, I think Drew's fine. Porzingis, Tatum, Brown, they're all fine plays. I will say this is a pretty good matchup. Indiana is a really fast-paced team, so I wouldn't be surprised if somebody does well from the Celtics here. Picking out who it's going to be is always the tough part. Last game, it was Jaylen Brown who went nuclear. He had 58 Draftkings points, scored 36 real-life points. Maybe he goes off again. Maybe it's Tatum this time. If you want to sprinkle in some of these Boston guys into your GBP lineups, I don't hate it, but other than that, I don't see too much else I like on Boston here. So let's go ahead and move on to the next game, Washington and Atlanta. Looking at Washington here, we need to talk about the status of Daniel Gafford because that's kind of important. Last game with Daniel Gafford out, they actually started Kyle Kuzma at center, and it was this, I don't know who this guy is. I've never heard of this guy, but it was Bilal Kalabi who started for Gafford. They basically just went small and played Kuzma at center. If this guy winds up starting again at 4K, I think he would be a playable value play on this slate. Last game, he did get 28 minutes, put up 22 DK points in the in that game. And then Kuzma, I think, does get a little bit of a boost here if he does wind up starting at center. I think he just should be more productive as a center. His rebounding numbers should see a little bit of a spike. He's only 7,500. I think he'd be a playable option on this slate. Jordan Poole, Tyus Jones, their price tags, I think they're both fine plays, but neither one of them stand out on this slate. I think the same could be said for Denny Avia. Really, there's not a ton on Washington that I'm interested in, but if Gafford does get ruled out, I think that Kalabi guys is in play for value. I think Kuzma gets a little boost as well. On the other side, though, with Atlanta, got some big news to monitor with Atlanta today. Trae Young's status listed as questionable. This is a really important injury because obviously if Trae Young gets ruled out, that just opens up a ton of usage. The biggest beneficiary, without a doubt, would be DeJounte Murray. We saw last season in the games that DeJounte played without Trae Young, he was super, super productive in those games. DeJounte at 7,300 would be a smash play, I think, at this price tag if Trae Young gets ruled out. And then I think you would see a little bit more opportunity for guys like Bogdan Bogdanovic. Maybe Jalen Johnson picks up a little bit more usage. Maybe DeAndre Hunter picks up a little bit more usage. Definitely my second favorite play on Atlanta, if Trae sits, would be Bogdan. I think Bogdan would definitely pick up a bigger role off the bench. He would pick up more usage. He's pretty cheap on this slate. But if Trae plays, I don't see a ton I like on Atlanta if Trae plays. I think this matchup is pretty good. But where these guys are priced at, I think they're all kind of priced correctly. DeJounte Murray, I don't mind going to his 7,300 if Trey's out. Like, I still think at this price tag, DeJounte's playable. I think if Trey does play, I think he'll be playable at 8,900. Not a strong option to me, but a guy you can mix in for GPPs. But like Clint Capella, Jalen Johnson, I think where they're priced at, they're fine options, but don't stand out. Jalen Johnson was he was really chalky last slate, but that was just because it was kind of a smaller slate. There wasn't a ton of value. I have a feeling on a big slate like this with so many questionable tags, there's going to be a ton of value today. I don't think Jalen Johnson's going to be like a top value, but he is starting now, and that does obviously make him a more attractive option for fantasy. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Atlanta. I think we can go ahead and move on to the next game, the Pelicans and the Thunder. So for the Pelicans today, some big news to monitor here. Brandon Ingram's status listed as questionable. Ingram was kind of a late scratch last game. Obviously, if Ingram sits again, the biggest beneficiaries are going to be Zion, CJ McCollum, Jonas Valanciunas, and I think Herb Jones gets a little bit of a boost as well. But definitely Zion and CJ McCollum, I would like a good amount here if there's no Brandon Ingram. Last game, these guys didn't do that well, but it was also a massive blowout against Golden State. I will say that Zion so far this season has not been great from a fantasy perspective, but I definitely think his upside is a lot higher if Ingram is out. He would be someone I'd be interested in for GBPs. And the CJ McCollum did have a pretty good game in limited minutes. He didn't get full run because of the blowout, but still did put up 37 DK points. I think he does get a big bump if there's no Brandon Ingram again. I would like him a lot at 7,200. And then Jonas Valanciunas was pretty productive last game. Again, limited minutes, only 23 minutes, but did have 27 DK points. I think this matchup against OKC, going up against Chet, who's kind of like a skinny guy, I feel like these are the type of matchups that Jonas Valanciunas can really exploit. When Jonas Valanciunas gets to go up against like smaller bigs and skinny guys, like he can just bully them down low. I would not be surprised to see a big J-Val game tonight. He is someone that I do have some interest in, especially if Ingram does sit again. And then Herb Jones at 5K would be a playable option if Ingram's out again. And then it was Jordan Hawkins that started in place of Ingram, and he was actually pretty solid. He played 35 minutes, had 27 DK points. Again, I feel like there's going to be a lot of value on this slate, but I think Hawkins is someone that we could throw into our value pool today if Ingram does wind up sitting again. If Ingram plays, then I pretty much have no interest in really anyone on the Pelicans where they're priced at. So yeah, that's it for that side of the game. Now, talking about the OKC side, I don't see a ton I like on OKC here. SGA, you can always play in tournaments. He always has a massive upside. He can put up huge games any night. I don't think he's my favorite pay-up option, though. And then Giddey, Chet, Jalen Williams, Lou Dort, like, these guys all feel priced correctly for this slate. If I had to pick a second favorite play on OKC behind SGA, it probably would be Chet. But nothing stands out from the Thunder, so let's move on to the next game, Brooklyn and Miami. So for Brooklyn today, they are another really short-handed team. No Nick Claxton, no Cam Johnson, and Spencer Dinwiddie is doubtful. He is not expected to play. So we should see some pretty big roles for Mikal Bridges, Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas, even Dorian Finney-Smith. He's been benefiting lately without Claxton. Definitely, Bridges, Simmons, and Thomas I have interest in. I think Simmons and Thomas are probably my two favorite plays. Ben Simmons is actually starting to be like fantasy relevant again. You look at his game log this season, he's been doing what Ben Simmons does. He's been scoring a little bit, rebounding, and getting assists. He's not going to go out there and put up 40 points, but he's going to give you double-digit points, double-digit rebounds, and close to double-digit assists. Like he doesn't have a triple-double yet this season, but he's going to put up a triple-double at some point. And the minutes have been strong for Ben Simmons, and I think his role's even bigger without Dinwiddie, without Claxton, with all these guys out. So I definitely like Ben Simmons on the slate, and I like Cam Thomas a lot as well. Don't think this matchup's that great for Cam Thomas, but his usage should be through the roof without Dinwiddie, without Claxton, without Cam Johnson. The minutes should be secure as well. At 6,600, I'm still fine going to Cam Thomas at this price tag. I think he's firmly in play today. Bridges, don't mind going to him either. And then I do want to talk about Dorian Finney-Smith. This is typically not someone that I really like to play in DFS because he's not the most productive per-minute producer, but he's been getting a lot of minutes at center lately. The production's been good for Dorian Finney-Smith. He's only 5,100. I think he's an okay option on this slate if you want to go there. Nothing else, though, from Brooklyn I'm interested in. And on the other side with Miami, some big news to monitor on Miami today. Jimmy Butler, questionable. Bam Adebayo, questionable as well. We did see, Bam, is probable. We did see Bam sit last game, but it looks like he's going to be back for this game. Jimmy, though, is questionable, so this will be something to monitor. Assuming Jimmy plays, I don't really like anything on Miami here because I think everyone is priced right if Jimmy plays. But if Jimmy gets ruled out, then I definitely like Bam at his price tag. I like Hero at his price tag. Wouldn't even mind going to Lowry at 5,300, but Bam and Hero would be the two guys that would really stand out from Miami if there's no Butler. just because those would be the two guys picking up all the usage. I think their price tags are both reasonable. They can pay off those price tags without Jimmy. But if Jimmy's in, I don't see anything that really stands out on this Miami team. So let's move on to the next set of games. We still got plenty more to go over, guys. So next game, Cleveland and New York. These two teams played on Tuesday night. They're playing again on Wednesday night, except this time it's in the Garden. Talking about the Cleveland side first. So Darius Garland, Karis LeVert, and Jared Allen were all out Tuesday. I'm assuming Allen and Garland are both going to remain out. I think they're going to be out for a few games. But LeVert, I'm assuming, probably will be back for this game. He was questionable for Tuesday, didn't wind up playing. I'm assuming they sat him Tuesday so that they could play him for this game. So I'm expecting LeVert back. Garland, on the other hand, don't know yet his status. I would just say that if Garland returns, there's really nothing that I like on the Cleveland side, because I think with Garland back, if he returns, all these guys are overpriced. But if Garland remains out, you could definitely go to Donovan Mitchell, but I think Donovan Mitchell at almost $10K now is priced where he should be. He wouldn't be like a standout option on this slate. Even with Jared Allen out, I think Evan Mobley's priced correctly as well. And then, yeah, obviously Max Strus is $6,400, so that's not really a price tag I want to get into. I don't see a ton I like on Cleveland, even though they will be a little bit shorthanded here. I think the price tags have just adjusted for the injury news that there's really no standout options on this Cleveland team. Now on the other side with the Knicks, this Knicks team, we talked about them on Tuesday. It's pretty easy to see where the usage and the minutes are going, and the fantasy value is going to in this offense. It's pretty much 2, maybe 3 guys you want to consider from the Knicks, and that's Randall, Brunson, and Barrett. I wouldn't be playing anyone else, I don't think, on a 13-game slate. I think Randall and Brunson are both GBP options. Neither one stand out as top plays on this slate, but they're viable if you're playing a lot of lineups. Don't see anything else though that I like on the Knicks today. So moving on to the next game, Denver and Minnesota. So for Denver, another team where we kind of know where the usage and the offense is going through. Obviously Nikola Jokic at 12K is pretty much always in play. We'll have to see what kind of value opens up today. I think if value is just everywhere, if there's a ton of value on the slate, Jokic would definitely be someone I'd want to pay up for. I think of all the just studs, in the NBA, I think Jokic is the guy that just has the highest floor and ceiling out of anyone. Even on a bad night, Jokic can still give you like 50 Draftkings points, and when he has those big games, he can get you 70, 75, 80 DK points. I know he's expensive at 12K, but there's so many questionable guys today that there's probably going to be value somewhere. So paying up for Jokic is something I definitely want to do. Denver, the other Denver guys like Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, and MPJ, on a 13-game slate, I don't have a ton of interest in these guys. I think Jamal Murray's fine, but I wouldn't see myself playing anyone else on Denver. And on the other side with Minnesota, there's not a ton that really stands out on Minnesota here. Anthony Edwards at 9,300, not a guy I want to get to on a big 13-game slate, I don't think. Karl-Anthony Towns at 8,200, feels priced correctly. I don't see a ton of interest going to Cat. Rudy Gobert at 6,900, I think is fine. Gobert actually has been pretty productive so far this season. He's had a double-double in all 3 of their games. He's had some trouble, though, in the past, I think, against Jokic. He's also dealt with foul trouble sometimes against Jokic, so I do worry a little bit about that for Gobert here. But if I had to play anyone on Minnesota, I think Gobert would be my favorite play when you factor in price. Nothing else, though, on this Minnesota team stands out. So let's move on to the next game, Charlotte and Houston. This is a game that I like a lot. This is one that I definitely want some exposure to. We'll start off on the Charlotte side. So for Charlotte here, LaMelo Ball, love this matchup for him against Houston. I think this is going to be a good matchup like it was last season. Guards going up against the Rockets. The only worry with LaMelo is that his minutes have just not been super high this season, and they've already said they're going to kind of keep LaMelo in the low 30s. I don't think LaMelo is going to be playing 36, 37, 38 minutes, which at 9,600, you kind of need him to play those heavy minutes to really be worth the salary. So tough to go to LaMelo. Terry Rozier at 7K, I don't mind. I typically don't play Rozier when the team's fully healthy, but I think on this slate, in this matchup, he is definitely playable at 7K. Gordon Hayward, though, I don't have a ton of interest in. Mark Williams is playable, but not a guy I'm super interested in. Same could be said for PJ Washington and Brandon Miller. I think there's a little bit more interest on the Houston side. Let's talk about the Houston side. So Alperen Sengun, I definitely like on this slate. We love targeting this matchup, centers against Houston. It's been a pretty good matchup so far this season. Or not centers against Houston, but centers against Charlotte. It's been a pretty good matchup so far this season. It was a great matchup last season. Sengun should dominate here, and the minutes have been really good for Sengun. He's been playing 34, 35 minutes as long as he avoids foul trouble and the game's competitive. This is a game that should stay competitive, so I think Sengun offers a lot of upside in this spot. I definitely like him at 7,700. Fred VanVleet has been kind of disappointing so far this season, but he's due for a big game. We know VanVleet's going to have a big role. He's going to play big minutes. The usage is going to be strong. So I definitely like VanVleet at 7,400, and even like Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, I don't mind at their price tags. Dylan Brooks, I don't have a ton of interest in, but I definitely think the top 4 guys from Houston, Şengün, VanVleet, Jalen Green, and Jabari Smith, all are in play here. I probably would rank them Şengün first, then VanVleet, then Jabari, then Jalen Green when you factor in price tag. But definitely like those 4 guys. I do want some exposure to this Houston team today. But let's move on to the next game, Chicago and Dallas. So for Chicago, I believe Zach LaVine's probable. Yeah, Zach LaVine is probable, so he's expected to play. If we're going to be considering anyone on Chicago today, we're probably going to be looking at the big 3. I don't think we're going to be considering anyone else. Maybe you could go to Kobe White, but on a 13-game slate, I don't think I'd go there. The big 3, though, from Chicago, these guys all feel a little bit underpriced. LaVine's 7.6, DeRozan is 7.4, and then Vooch is 7.2. I think when you're looking at the matchup here, I think the matchup might be best for Vooch. I don't think this Dallas team is going to be very good defensively against bigs. Derek Lively, I don't think is going to be probably that good of a defender. I feel like this is a matchup Vooch can definitely exploit. We know Vooch does have a big ceiling, and we have seen him put up big games in good matchups. He had 52 Draftkings points last game against Indiana. That was a good matchup. I think Vooch is my favorite Bull today, followed by DeRozan, followed by LaVine, but I don't mind going to any of those 3 guys. I don't think on a big slate I would be playing multiple Bulls. I wouldn't be playing 2 or 3 of these guys in one lineup, but if you want to play one of the 3, I think these Chicago guys are viable. They do all feel a little bit too cheap. And on the other side with Dallas, got some big news to monitor here with Kyrie Irving's status. Obviously, if Kyrie sits, Luka is just going to have a massive role. Now, DraftKings has priced Luka all the way up to 12,600. But man, if Kyrie's out, you could argue that Luka is still too cheap. I mean, you look at what he did last game without Kyrie. Massive triple-double, played 40 minutes, had 76 DraftKings points. Luka has just been great this season. He's been right up there with Jokic in terms of best fantasy upside to go along with floor. I mean, the dude has he hasn't put up less than 72 DraftKings points this season. I know it's only 3 games, but Luka's been so good this season. He's definitely a top play today if there's no Kyrie. If Kyrie returns, though, I don't have as much interest in Luka at that price tag. If Kyrie plays, really no interest in him. Really no interest in anyone else on Dallas if Kyrie's in. Now, if Kyrie is out, then I think we can start to consider guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., Grant Williams, not Jeff Green, but I forgot. I don't know why I just blanked on his name. Josh Green, sorry. Josh Green. Grant Williams actually did have a pretty good game last game without Kyrie. Played 31 minutes, had 23 DK points. It's a 13-game slate, so I wouldn't be running to roster Grant Williams, but I think Grant Williams would be a viable option if there's no Kyrie. I think Josh Green would also be a viable option. His minutes would be very secure. Tim Hardaway Jr. did not have that great of a game last game coming off the bench, or he actually did have a decent game, but I think at his price tag, he would probably be my least favorite of all the Mavericks guys, all the value guys, but I think he would still be playable if Kyrie is out again. But that's it for Dallas, I think. Derek Jones Jr. did start last game in place of Kyrie. He was pretty solid. Did want to mention him as a value option. I think if Kyrie is out again and Derek Jones Jr. starts, you could consider him for value as well. Let's move on to the next game, though, Memphis and Utah. So for Memphis today, I don't really like a ton on this Memphis team. All these Memphis guys have kind of been priced up to where they should be, but I will say this matchup against Utah I think is going to be pretty good. Utah is going to be a fast-paced team. It looks like Utah is going to be a bad defensive team as well. So I think there's upside for guys like Desmond Bane, Triple J, even maybe Marcus Smart. If I was going to play anyone on Memphis, it would be either Bane or Triple J. I think on this slate, they're both going to be pretty low owned. So if you want to go there in tournaments, I have no issue with it. I wouldn't really be on anyone else on Memphis, though. And on the other side with Utah, I mean, this Utah team, they're a tough team to gauge. They have just so many guys that they can give minutes to, and the usage has kind of been spread around so far this season. The price tags, though, for these guys, especially like these 5K guys, like Walker Kessler's below 6K. I mean, Jordan Clarkson's only 5,600. I know Jordan Clarkson's been bad this season, but 5,600 is really cheap for Jordan Clarkson. I think he's viable at that price tag. John Collins has actually been pretty solid for the Jazz so far this year. He's been super consistent. At 5,500, I think he's firmly in play on the slate. Minutes have been pretty good for John Collins. So, you know, Clarkson, Collins both do feel a little bit too cheap. I think those will be my 2 favorite plays on Utah. Lauri Markkanen is obviously going to have a big role, but I think at 8,400, he's priced correctly here. So let's talk about the next game. 2 more games to go, guys. The Clippers and the Lakers. So the Clippers, they are on the second night of a back-to-back. We're definitely going to have to monitor their injury report, we have seen the Clippers do weird things on back-to-backs. It is worth noting that they did trade for James Harden. We don't know yet if James Harden is going to be available for this game or not. He's not in the DraftKings player pool, it doesn't look like. The Clippers were pretty short-handed Tuesday night, because they traded away Covington, they traded away Batum, KJ Martin, so they had a lot of guys out. We did see Bones Highland start on Tuesday night. If Bones Highland starts again, I think at 5,100, he would definitely be a playable option on this slate. But like the studs from the Clippers, I don't love. It is a revenge game for Russell Westbrook. I think Westbrook's going to get up for this game. Like, I think he wants to play well here. If you want to play that narrative, go ahead. Westbrook has been solid this season from a fantasy perspective. We know he is a guy that can do a little bit of everything when he's on the floor. At 7,100, I think Westbrook and Bones Highland, assuming Bones starts again, those are probably my two favorite plays on the Clippers. But we're definitely going to have to monitor the injury report here, and we're going to have to keep an eye on the status of those guys that they traded for. Obviously, if Harden winds up playing for the Clippers today, that's going to be pretty big news. We'll have to see if that happens. But like Kawhi and PG, I don't think I'm going to go to on this slate. Just too many other guys I prefer to pay up for. So let's talk about the other side of this game now with the Lakers. Looking at the Lakers here, you have Anthony Davis at 9,800. LeBron is 9,100. We'll start off with LeBron first. It's going to be hard to play LeBron if the Lakers are going to keep his minutes low like they kind of have been. Now, obviously, this game against the Kings went to overtime, but in competitive games, LeBron's only been playing like 31, 32 minutes. He's not really getting massive minutes in competitive games. Now, this is a national TV game, so maybe this is a spot where they up LeBron's minutes a little bit if the game's competitive. But I think it's going to be tough to play LeBron at his price tag where he is priced now until he starts to get more than 32 minutes, 33 minutes. Anthony Davis, though, has been playing massive minutes, and he's been super productive. At 9,800, I'm fine with AD as a spend-up option today. I think he is definitely my favorite play on the Lakers overall. D'Angelo Russell, though, has been pretty good this season. He's had a pretty big role. He's been playing big minutes. I don't mind him at 6,100 either. He's probably my second favorite play behind Anthony Davis. Austin Reeves has taken a big step back so far this season, just at least to start the season. I think Reeves is probably going to get it going at some point, but his role's been not great this year, and his minutes have been a little bit down as well. Tough to go to Reeves today. Tough to really go to anyone else on the Lakers, I think. So let's move on to the last game of the night, the Kings and the Warriors. So looking at the Kings today, they're another team that's dealing with some injury news. De'Aaron Fox already been ruled out for this game. So without De'Aaron Fox, we are going to see Davion Mitchell start at point guard. DraftKings actually did a good job here and priced up Davion Mitchell to 4,800. Davion Mitchell did start some games last season for De'Aaron Fox, and I want to say that he was pretty bad from a fantasy perspective in those games. He was not very productive. And I think with his price tag up to 4,800, I don't really like Davion Mitchell for value here. I think he's expensive enough to where I don't have a ton of interest. If he was like the stone minimum 3K, I would really be interested in Davion Mitchell. But since DraftKings did price him up to nearly 5K, I don't have a ton of interest in Davion here, but I definitely like Domantas Sabonis. I think Sabonis is going to have a really big role without De'Aaron Fox. The offense is probably going to run through Sabonis. At 10.5, I think he's a strong pay-up option on this slate. And I think you'll see a little bit of a bigger role for Keegan Murray, for Harrison Barnes, for Malik Monk, Kevin Huerter as well. But where these guys are priced at, none of them really stand out head and shoulders above the rest. I think my favorite play for sure on the Kings is Domantas Sabonis. And on the other side with Golden State here, Klay Thompson is probable for this game, so he's expected back after missing their last game. There's not really much that stands out on the Warriors today. Steph Curry, always someone you can play in GBPs. Curry always has a massive upside. This should be a fast-paced, high-scoring game, so I think this game environment is going to set up really well for Curry. But on a 13-game slate, he's not a standout pay-up option. Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, none of those guys look great at their price tags. Nothing else on Golden State really stands out. It's just Curry that I would be interested in as a GBP play, and I think that's it. So that'll do it, guys, for this 13-game slate for Wednesday night. This is going to be a crazy one, man. There's a lot of injury news up in the air right now. I did my best to break it down for you guys and just kind of give you my early thoughts on this slate. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, appreciate you watching the videos. Hit that like button if you did enjoy. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And be sure to go check out PrizePicks as well, guys. Sign up for PrizePicks. Use that promo code NOAH. Get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code. And as always, I will be making a PrizePicks video for today, sharing some props I like for this big slate. I'll have a separate video that I will post later tonight. Be sure to check that out if you want some props I like for today. But that's all I got for tonight, guys, for this slate. Going to be a fun one. Going to be a crazy one. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Appreciate you watching as always, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.